Hi, everybody. This is Tyler Verhoff, and I'm here to present my EDL 850 School Law presentation over tort liability. So I'm going to start off with understanding and defining what tort liability actually is. Tort law allows one party to bring a claim against another for negligence that is related to the injuries or damages of property. And to go along with that, several laws affect the government's liability in the event of injury or death, including those that occur on school grounds. So the first court case that I looked into was HOYEM versus Manhattan Beach City School District. This setting of the court case took place at a summer school in the Manhattan Beach City School District, and a student left class and kind of cut class and was trying to get out of it. And as they were coming and cutting class, as they were going home, they were struck by a motorcycle and were killed. So the proactive measures for this would be, I would instill a mandatory procedure that teachers take attendance at the beginning of each summer class. If a student is not present, teachers should alert the office to find the whereabouts of students in the middle of the day. A reactive measure in my school, I would say all students must leave the classrooms in the summer school at the same time. So they'll transition all at the same time, so you wouldn't have to worry about people cutting class, and taking attendance at the beginning and end of each class would be beneficial, I think, because possibly someone may have to go use the restroom or come out of the classroom to get a drink or what have you, just to be sure. And when the attendance is taken, just make sure that the students communicate with the secretary, the teachers communicate with administration that, this student's not here. I think that's very essential when it comes to a reactive measure for a situation like this. The second court case that I researched was Mitchell versus Cedar Rapids Community School District. In this case, we see a special needs student who has a very low IQ, and she leaves school and doesn't ask permission, and she goes to an event with a student who takes advantage of her disability, and unfortunately the student is sexually assaulted. Special ed teachers were there and saw, but they thought that the student did have consent from the other person, and that was not the case. And after that assault, there was a lawsuit put in place. Proactive measures for this court case would be, I would really focus on the staff if something like this happened, because it could easily happen again, especially in special education. Working in that field, I see signs all the time. So if we were to get a workshop going for the staff members, and so they can see warning signs, I think that would help out a lot and encourage the staff members to report any type of suspicious or unruly behavior, because you really want to nip this in the bud as soon as it happens, because it's a huge problem in special education areas. Reactive measures for at my school. Students in special education class should never be left unattended. You have to be there for their every single need. You never know what might happen. And I stress that wholeheartedly. I would also make it mandatory for the teachers to communicate with parents if there's an unexcused absence so they can find the whereabouts of their child. If you don't know where your child is, or you don't know where your student is, chances are it's probably going to be a bad situation. So get on that right away. That's a big deal. And to couple with that, there should always be cameras under surveillance in the halls, especially in a special education unit. It's a huge liability if, someone with a disability who may be an autistic runner just runs away and no one sees him, and stuff like that happens all the time. So it's a very good idea for a school district to, put a camera in place and to protect themselves, really. Court case number 3, we're looking at Flanagan versus Canton Central School District. Being an adaptive physical education teacher, I tried to pick some physical education classes towards the end of this presentation. So what basically happened in this scenario was students were getting dressed in the locker room before PE class. The physical education teacher wasn't there. Therefore, there was a assault, a big bully fight inside the locker room. Okay, so a proactive measure here would be to have a male locker room supervisor in the male locker room and a female supervisor in the female locker room. You could also maybe have a female physical education teacher and a male physical education teacher, but let's be honest, a lot of schools do not have that in their budget. Another proactive measure could be your physical education teacher should be trained in first aid and CPR. I am, just in case of anything ever happens, that I can be the first responder and help and do what I can to help the situation, because the student was injured very badly from this fight. Also, just put up locker room rules and have consequences posted so students aren't even thinking about doing anything mischievous inside the locker room. It helps. I have signs up in my room, in my gymnasium and in the locker rooms, and I've never had too many problems. Reactive measures. Students involved in that attack against the students should lose privilege of the locker room for a time period, and I would have them take bully prevention classes, and if they're not expelled, students, if they were still in the school, I would make them walk every single day until I realized that they were sorry, because they're still getting that physical activity and they're still listening to lectures and stuff. But I would punish them by making them walk laps around the gym the entire period. And this is something that I've done in the past. Court case number 4, Rollins versus Concordia Parish School Board. What happened here is recess was going on, and a couple kids were playing on the merry-go-round, and as we know, merry-go-rounds go super, super fast, and the young girl fell off and broke her leg. The recess monitor was walking kind of towards the area, but was distracted by two students who were fighting over a basketball. And unfortunately, she wasn't there to help. And so proactive measures: ensure there is just enough recess supervisors for the amount of students playing on the playground. I would recommend one monitor per class, because you have one teacher per class to look over all those students. You can't expect one recess monitor to supervise 60, 70 kids. I mean, you're bound to have something go wrong. Also, I would remove the merry-go-round completely. It's a huge liability and you don't really need it, and I would just get that out of there. Reactive measures, I would reinforce the playground rules. Again, I would put a sign up similar to the one below, so everybody knows the consequences if they are to break the rules, and if you're going to keep the merry-go-round, have safety rules so students know that it is dangerous and how they can prevent something bad to happen to them. And lastly, for a reactive measure, I would have additional recess monitors in different sections of the playground. So let's say there's 3, one would cover the playground area, one would cover the grass areas of the fields, and one would cover the basketball courts, or however it's set up. In court case number 5, BRAHATCEK versus MILLARD School District. And in this case, there was a golf unit being taught in a gymnasium due to the bad weather outside. And there was a substitute teacher and a physical education teacher who had set up the golf swing areas. And there was a student who missed some time before the golf swings, and he partnered up with a buddy named Mark, and him and Mark went to go to the hitting area to swing at the ball, and Mark was teaching him, and lo and behold, Mark came back with the club and hit the other student in the face, and unfortunately he died later after that. And being a physical education teacher, this just irks me. This should never have happened. First of all, the proactive measures. I would never have students swing metal golf clubs in a gym. If teaching golf during PE, students should use plastic heads or clubs or mesh clubs. They make great equipment for golf in the gym. I don't think that we should ever have to worry about anything like this on this day and age, and as long as we're smart. Safety rules should have been taught to all students, and the teacher should have taught the safety rules to the student who was absent, and the situation would have been easily prevented. And if this were happening to my school and I was the administrator, I would talk to the PE teacher and ask them to rethink the safety of the lesson. The activity should have been revisited at a different date to where students could practice their golf swing outside. I mean, you could do countless things, and it's just such a liability. This case just really shocks me. And after the accident, students in class should be talked to by a school counselor and the administrator, because it's kind of traumatic if you see someone who gets injured and later dies. Students are going to have a hard time dealing with that, and they may never forget it. So I would really suggest that they talk to a school counselor. Well, thank you all for listening to what I have to say about tort law and all the court cases. This was a really great assignment, and here is my resources. Good luck to everybody in the final weeks remaining.